in a special video. Um, Special because it's not me talking about stuff that are my ideas, and special because it's dedicated to some of the people that I learned from. So, a lot of people want to hear about relationship astrology and how to find love and all of that things. And today I want to do a video actually about all the advices and all the things I've learned about this topic and the astrologers that I learned it from. So listen up. This is going to be a very good video as resource to direct you also to other astrologers and to other channels, and kind of a contribution to the teachers, official and unofficial, because even though I'm self-taught astrologer, it doesn't mean that I learned without context. It doesn't mean that I didn't listen to others. It doesn't mean that I didn't read other people's work. And it doesn't mean that I'm not grateful for what I've learned from people who just posted their stuff online. So, without further ado, um, advice number one is I learned a lot from the interpretations. Basically, that's how I started. The interpretations of Liz Green in astro.com. So, stuff I've learned there, I think a lot because she really combined psychology and astrology. Basically, I learned about the wisdom of the outer planets. For example, um, with Neptune involvement, then there can be ideation. And this is how I learned that we can idealize people and then devalue, basically. So, ideation and evaluation is something that can be Neptune interference. Um, and I've learned that when you have a hard Pluto aspect, it's very likely that it's going to manifest, and it's something that you want to pay attention to. Um, so I definitely learned that you don't you don't go messing with outer planets. Like if they are in hard aspects, know that you need to be prepared. So those are more like the harsher lessons. I've learned about the importance of having something like the sun in the 12th house composite, and that really is meeting aspects of ourselves that we don't usually meet. Um, and that can be, it can cause us to be more authentic, but it usually is through a crisis of some sorts because we didn't know that we didn't know that about us, let alone our partners. And sometimes our partners see something we don't see about us, and they find it very difficult to explain it, even though maybe they want to a lot. So a lot of stuff I learned from Liz Green, also about the savior victim. I don't want to say complex, but how people can enter relationships thinking that they're going to save or heal the other person, very Neptunian thingy. But that is trying to escape their own problems and how that might show up, especially in times of crisis when you think about it. So people can seek out relationships for all the wrong reasons. And those, like just reading those things kind of helped keeping me single at the times that I needed to be single, I think. um, so yeah, definitely do check out these green check out, and those are just ready composites, ready synastries. The composites, they have interpretations, and um, the interpretations are just important wisdom on relationships that like it has even nothing necessarily to do with, like, even if you take all the astrology out of it, it's just, oh, that's good to know. That's good to know. um, So that is one person. Um, and then there were things I learned from Lada Duncheva from her channel. And Lada Duncheva talked about a lot of things to do with relationship. One thing I learned that I really liked, and she learned it from Ernst Wilhelm, and I'll talk about Ernst Wilhelm later. So you'll want to check out, like, you probably know her channel, but if you don't somehow, then it's definitely worth checking. And where she taught about the moon, the, the moons and respect in synastries. So this is beautiful. Basically, if you're the type who likes to be courted more than to court, you want your moon to be after the moon in zodiacal order. So the zodiacal order starts from Aries, then Taurus, Gemini, and so on and so forth. So let's say you have a moon in Cancer, like me, and you like to be courted, you like to be receptive in your relationship, regardless of your gender. I mean, you could be a man, right? And you would prefer a person who has the moon um, closer to your moon. The distance from their moon is closer to your moon. So let's say moon like even Gemini, that is one sign before, or Taurus, that is exalted. And so the energy goes from their moon to your moon. And then you can feel more warm and you can feel more safe in the relationship and you can feel more consistency because they, depending on other factors, of course, but because they are the ones that are basically investing the energy in you and you're the receptive person. If you're more like an equal person, then let's say you have a moon in Taurus, you might have a person with the moon in Scorpio and get along best with them because you actually um, don't want to be the person who's more on the receptive side necessarily. So that moon trick is wonderful, and it's one of the things, along with the sixth house wisdom of Liz Green composite, where sixth house can be a relationship where one just sacrifices and gives and but doesn't get that much in return. It's not so compatible for romantic relationships. Um, then the the moon thing, you can really, it's one of those things that show you how, if you are a person that wants their, the energy invested in you, then you got to pay attention to the moon. It doesn't matter how much you like this person, they're not going to yield, or they're going to have to do something unnatural to them if they are to court you in the way that you want to. So planets matter. It doesn't mean outrule a person for a relationship. That's not what sensory is. That's not what his wisdom is. Um, just look at it. And sometimes when you do work with the moon and nourish your own needs, then um, you can improve upon the type of attachments you have and the type of relations, or you can be more receptive. And then, people come to you more than you have to chase them, but not be happy with them because you resent the role of courtship. So that's one thing I learned from Lada that I really remember, and I use it every time I need, like every time somebody comes to me with a synastry, I always mention her, and I use that because it breaks it dissolves a lot of confusion that people have around why are they not being treated the way that they want to be treated. It's not always just love language. It's sometimes just who is who is doing the more courting in a connection. Another thing that she spoke about was that if you have like hard aspects between outer planets to inner planets, then you need to be doing some work, like let's say Pluto Venus, okay? Then you need to be doing some work of growing, but also sharing the knowledge, like volunteering contribution to the society. Um, and that's, if you hear me talking about the outer planets, if you have outer planets to inner planets issues in your relationships, they are of the zeitgeist. I just wrote it on Twitter yesterday. So the seed to this understanding was basically from Lada. where she said, well, you have to do work for the society. And I saw that in my life it actually works. And that is something that is going to help you work with this energy. Um, and so that that can be like helping people who are abused in domestic relationships, like Pluto stuff, um, or even teaching about astrology to people, and astrology in relationships is Uranus stuff, because Uranus, and that's another great lot of wisdom, is Uranus is going to shake up your relationships, both Lee's Green and Lada. um, you may find yourself in all kinds of circumstances, but it's because you need to pursue a certain life goal, you need to change your life, you need to switch up your game and throw what no longer is serving you. um, and that are for sure there are more, but that's like another person I learned something from. So let's talk about Ernst Wilhelm, because Ernst Wilhelm is doing a lot of great work with astrology, and he did, I think, a year ago or 2 years ago, uh, an entire series of the wisdom of the planets and the journey of the planets according to George. Um, he's unique in the sense that he works with George in tropical astrology, and um, and his wisdom about relationships is to sort of improve upon the person who the planet ruling the spouse. So for men, this is Venus, and men actually get, I think, more chances for the spouse to be um, in a good place, simply because Venus is happier in more places in the chart, according to him, if I'm not mistaken. And so for men, it is about, Venus, and I think he said it is not too much that they can do about it. I think he said that. But for women, it is Jupiter, and Jupiter is your life purpose. It's basically the instinct to do good. So pursuing spirituality, pursuing the things that truly make you happy in life, so much so that a relationship with another human being becomes a wonderful addition to your life and not a necessity, is something that can be very helpful for men. The chart of people who look for a man spouse. I don't know if it would work for gay men. It might, because that would probably be Jupiter for them. Um, if they look for more Jupiterian, or like, it depends if they look for more Jupiterian type of partner, like philosopher, thinker, uh, child child curiosity, or if they look for more Venusian type of partner, like elegant, beautiful, um, you know, more relational, connectiony type of person. Not Jupiter is not relational connectiony, but it's more about inspiration and what they can teach you, and so on and so forth. So just following what you like to study, what you like to be inspired by, dedicating yourself to spiritual life, finding the type of spirituality that works for you, exploring, I don't know, Lord Shiva. That can be things that kind of put the place you put on a partner to make you happy into proportions, and that can contribute to your life, basically, because you don't seek out for a partner to make you happy. You seek out to be happy, and then a partner joins it. Again, this is wisdom of relationships, right? Even if you put your astrology aside, it's just good wisdom of relationships. And another thing that he said, and some people might not agree with him, was that if people get to know each other and make sure that they like each other as a person and not just immediately get intimate, then they have better chance to have a relationship that relies on a good friendship. Because at the end of the day, sexual relationship is important, attraction is important, to find our desires and heal our sensuality is important. But for a long term, if you think about the person that you are, if you are looking for a long term relationship, if you think about the person that you want to spend your life with is somebody that you actually like, then yeah, you need to be friends first, right? Somebody that you actually like. And when you do go into sensuality, into sex with the person, you basically are overflown with a lot of hormones and romantic love that diverts your judgments from, do I like this person? It's not always possible to do so, um, but that's a good advice. Like if you are the kind of person that does want a long-term relationship, it's good to just make sure that you like the person. And it's easier to do that before you become sexually intimate because um, simply because if you are already sexually intimate, there are many hormones that just overflow the system and you don't actually get to know the person or you're very biased. Again, if you're insanely attracted the minute you meet this person, it might not be that easy. Um, but it is important because after you already are emotionally attached, like had romantic, connection, um, if it doesn't work, then it can be heartbreaking for at least one of the people. But if it is working, then that can be something that binds you together, even though it's not, So there's nothing wrong. Like if you're looking for the type of connections, that's okay. But if you actually want a long-term relationship, that can divert your judgment and bias you, so that you can even commit to a partner that is not like is you have good intimacy with, but is not you fall for anyone who says they like you, but they run in less than a week. Yes, because okay, this is important. Um, what he talked about is like have at least 6 months that you get to know each other. I don't know if you get into intimacy or not, but it doesn't mean that you won't break up or that they won't run away, that you won't want to run away, but it does mean that you will at least get to know them. So um, and see and also work with the moon. And this is my next advice. And one of the like basically two people at once came from a different perspective with the moon work. One was when I saw basically Sphere and Sundry, which is Caitlin Koppak, with the election of Austin Koppak, had moon talisman, basically the talisman of the moon. And what that talisman was doing, it was, and you always have to work like with Deneb Algadi, like with protection because it is receptive. So you need to protect the boundaries. If you do purchase that, um, it is doing a work on your emotional needs and meeting your emotional needs. Self care. Okay, basically self care. But self care in accordance with your moon. So I don't know where your moon is at and how is it aspected, but it will bring about the things that you psychologically need to purge or need to change or need to be aware of so that you can cater to your own needs. Like one of them could be that maybe, who is chasing, okay, whose moon is approaching whose moon. Maybe you need to be courted, but maybe you also need to be with yourself and to learn how to give to yourself what you need, almost like if it was a partner, form relationship with the. Okay, well, I don't know. I just, well, I had this, I used to like people who do physics. And I would joke about this, and pardon my French, I would say, well, a guy who does physics to me is like a woman with, I don't know, big breast or something. It's nice, but it's not something that's going to make or break a relationship. It's just something that I'm attracted to, like an external, like a man could be attracted to women with a certain type of bum or a certain type of boobs or a certain type of looks. But this is okay. Something about this profession that is erotically arousing to you, and that's okay. But it doesn't mean that they will make like the greatest partner. it basically, from what you're saying, I'm hearing both work with your moons to cater to your emotional needs. Wait. Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what does it serve for you, but I think that there is a real serious work of disintegrating your perceptions around family, around relationships, because it sounds like, maybe I'm mistaken, maybe I'm projecting, okay, that you're going with a certain list. They have to be this, and that, and the items on the list do not necessarily relate to what you actually need. So okay, they need to be a musician. Why? Do they need to be more sensitive? Do they need to be more accommodating? Do they need to respect your creative side? What is it? And so you can find that there are a lot of people who work in even high tech that are, musicians for the drawer, or the right for the drawer, and you don't even know that, but they do have this side of them, or they have to be accepting of this side of you. Okay, so to be able to cry together. Okay, now we have it. Now we have it better. We need to be able to be emotional together. Okay, great. Then it's not the profession that they're doing. It's something that they need to have so that you'll be happy. Wonderful. So you can be emotional with them. Great. Now we know what it is. Now that's something you can work with. I need my partner to be a person that I can cry together with. Good. Wonderful. Um, so, one of the self care things for you would be probably to be emotional with yourself, first of all, and then you would see if there's a person that you can be emotional with. Because, of course, containment to your emotions inside your home is something that's very important when you want to start a family, of course. Absolutely. That's essence. Now that's essential. So definitely moon work, working with our moon, meeting our own emotional needs, and it also helps to release the blockages we may have around receiving the type of attachment that we need. So growing ourselves up. And you can go to my Moon Across the Zodiac series. If it doesn't include your moon, then tell me and I will do a video about it, about your moon. Um, And another person that I hope will come to this channel, he just needs to do that in English. Okay, it seems like we have a longer talk here because you're pointing out very important things. Um, and yeah, I'm going to touch on that together with the next astrologer. The next astrologer is Yair Tribelski, and unfortunately, right now he only does stuff in Hebrew. But I hope for that to change, and I hope I can bring him to this channel and get him to speak in English, um, because he knows English, but it's just like language barrier. And what he does is basically taking a look at the sun and the moon of a natal chart and thinking, okay, this is the father and the mother. So let's see what happened with this person. How are the luminaries aspected, and what can be done about this? So awareness to what happened at birth, awareness to the luminaries, how were the mother and father at birth, and awareness of how that affected the person. So that's purely psychological, but it's done with the chart, so it gets very specific. So just thinking about your own chart, okay, how is my sun at, where is my sun, how is it aspected, where is my moon, how is it aspected? That is how it was. That's how ma and dad were when or ma and dad were when I was born. Look at your eighth house and its lord. No, eighth house and its lord, yeah, it's more like, yeah, never mind. But definitely the luminaries. How are they positioned? How is the moon? How is the sun? What happened that affected you at the time of your birth? because that tells what was the experience of the parents that you were directly and affected by before the verbal stage where you can talk, where you can feel, you were sensing things that affected you, sometimes even in the womb. So that's something important to do. So that kind of work together with, a talisman like a moon talisman, can help you. Do I offer one-on-one consultations? Yes, I do. I do give readings. And I want to refer to another point that you've mentioned that is very much Neptunian. You said it's not only that I want a person who is a musician or an artist, but I want them to be the sad musician. Well, while absolutely, um, while it is important that you will make sure that the person is ready for relationship. So yeah, definitely we have a longer talk, and absolutely, you can contact. I'm Tali Shir on Twitter. It is Strudel, TaliSheer, okay, Talisheer on Twitter. So you can absolutely write me, and Shirley Youngblood on Instagram, which I have, I believe, a link in my about section in my channel. So absolutely, you can write me, and we can set up a consultation so it will be more personalized. Um, but this is something that happens to a lot of people. Sometimes we get drawn, or we have, it's basically in psychology, it's transference. We're drawn to a certain type of person that while they are romantically alluring, we need to consider why are we drawn to this type of person. Yes, thank you, Anna. Big hug. We need to consider why are we drawn to this type of person, and do they meet not just a certain state that we are now, but the needs that it takes to have a healthy relationship. Because our sad musician, when they decide that they do want to have children, even if they cope with, let's say, depression, they will take on certain responsibilities on their lives, that allow them to have children and allow them to be a caregiver and allow them to be a father. Um, but do they want that? Because sometimes that seems to be overwhelming, and sometimes, and also when they do take on these responsibilities, even if they do cope with depression, they might not be the sad artists. Like they might not be that. They might not want to be like they will find also seeds of happiness within them. That even though they may cope with times of being depressed, they might have seeds of joy that they pay the emphasis on, and for example, being with their children. So there's a deeper look, there's a deeper way to go there, around these topics. And so looking at our luminaries, if I go back to my previous point, looking at our luminaries is vital to our sense of joy in relationships, because this is what we bring of the effect from our own household in terms of relationship with the solar figure and the lunar figure. Because after we get into commitment or married or deeper into intimate relationships, those things start to come up. We see the parent in us, and we see the parent in the other, and yeah, the inner child comes up, like all those things come up. um, Another good relationship advice that I received from the videos of Ksenia Moore. And Ksenia Moore is another astrologer who does integrate various types of astrology, so traditional and modern astrology, Vedic and Western astrology, both traditional and modern. And she's just an amazing source of knowledge to check out. Was about Mars. And Mars, not just in the chart of um, a man, but also in the chart of a woman. It's not just like, oh, the Mars in your chart is the type of person that you're sexually drawn to. Mars is not just sexual attraction, it's also action and initiation. And if you check where your Mars is and start to act your Mars, start to be that person, um, and take on initiations and take on going after your passions. So it's not just doing something that makes you happy, Jupiter. Okay, that's what Ernst Wilhelm talked about. It's also taking care of going after your passions, being active, doing stuff. What is your where is Mars for you? How does it act and embody your Mars? It would also help you to understand a lot about the those qualities of your partner, regardless of gender, by the way. Um, and perhaps even heal some aspects of those. You know, there's no good way to say masculine, feminine without invoking all kinds of, gender issues, but also, and I am gender fluid, but also I don't know how to talk about this like in other words, so feel free to give me advice, rather than, just, oh, whatever. It's just so. And there was another question here. Yeah, I'm trying to read your question, but I'm not sure how can I see messages. Maybe here. No, share, microphone, save highlight. Oh, I can do save highlight. That's nice. So, you didn't find me. Oh, okay. You can maybe if you have a channel, do you have Instagram or I don't know. I don't want to contact you. Wait. On Twitter because it is in my about section in my channel. I have my about. There should be Twitter there. So it's Trudel Talishir, TALISHER on Twitter. So I should be there and I should be available, and then you can send a message. Or you can have my Instagram, which I think is also there, or even my Facebook. Like, but my Facebook, you just have to give me your own Facebook because I wouldn't know. Like, it doesn't always show me the messages. But thanks. Like, feel free. If it doesn't work for you, then say like you can interrupt. It's no problem. Um, so yes, Mars. Okay. Um, Practicing your own Mars, it can help you also heal a lot of aspects of yourself or be aware of what it's like to initiate, what it's like to go after what you desire. And so when somebody goes after you and you're the one that they desire, you can understand them more and you can accept them more and you can be more compassionate. It doesn't mean that you would agree with everything. It doesn't mean that you will accept, every invitation. But you can at least be more understanding and compassionate that that your Mars type person is basically courting you or chasing you with their Mars. That if you are drawn to them, it could be in relation to your Mars. So practicing your own Mars can also make you feel more whole inside a relationship. So you're not tied to the role of not saying anything, not initiating, not going after your passions or fantasies, um, and you feel also like you can take care of yourself. Like Mars is also setting boundaries, and that can create more equal relationships in your life. So this is a tip I got from Ksenia Moore on relationships. And then there is Truth in Aspect Astrology, which is a great channel and a great wisdom. This was my go to when I was wanted to get out of the just learning about relationships through, let's say, Lee's Green. And I wanted to check the aspects because I was doing composites, so aspects. So that's just a fascinating source of knowledge. And of course, it does go in a way like a cookbook because any such channel will give you a sort of cookbook. Also, my Moon Across the Zodiac is a cookbook. You actually have to learn with her to learn how to integrate these things. But it does definitely, if you don't know a certain aspect, or if you don't know what does it mean to have this next to this alone, then you can see what isolated that could mean by someone who is also a relational therapist and an astrologer. So there is where I got like a ton of stuff. um, and one of them was Uranus relationships. The Uranus oppositions and midlife crisis, which I think is wonderful. And basically, around where Uranus forms an opposition to its natal position in your chart, there is a sort of a Kundalini rise. There is a sort of effect that shakes your life. It's sort of like a check. Okay, how have you been doing so far in relation to being your authentic self and chasing what you actually desire, um, wherever Uranus is in your chart? Okay, for me it is career. So like I'm expected that sort of revolution. Like, hey, and at the time it can bring about a hard aspect Venus Uranus relationships, and you can check my Venus Wisdom on the Venus Day video about this type of Uranus Venus relationships, and I also go through the many aspects Venus can have with planets and how they affect your relationships. So this one is actually the one where you would have affairs, or you would have chances to have affairs, or you would be very susceptible to disregard the norm and the convention around your relationships. And this is actually a necessary part of growth, to make sure that you are in the connection that aligns with you. So the aspects of you that you weren't expressing at the time um, may come into fruition, and you be like a rebel, right? Because Uranus is that rebel. It's when we go from being a child to adulthood, so that teenage phase of life. It kind of brings it about again, and that's something that really humbled me, because I was looking at relationships and charts, and it was like, well, listen, just everybody has that. Everybody has that, and if you can look at what those affairs or those infatuations bring into your life, and go after what you desire, while making while being more authentic about it, no blame shame, but actually saying, um, okay, can I still meet me inside the current relationship, or does it mean that I need to look for a more fitting connection to the person that I am now? And this is a super important, reality check that we get with astrology. It correlates a lot with the wisdom of Esther Perel around relationships and erotics in relationships, cheatings, and so on. Um, but it also kind of gives us the Uranus type of reality check, that is, have I been too loyal? Have I been too committed? Is it true for now? And everybody will go through Uranus opposition. It's not just a relationship; it's your entire life. And yeah, Jorge. Okay, Anna Cloudy. Wonderful. Then we'll talk. Amazing. That's great. Um, Wonderful. So if you also have been trying to find me and cannot find me, then and you're watching, then let me know. On my love your way. So where were we? Uranus. Okay. So Uranus opposition, big time in your life. And I extend that to any type of Venus Uranus relationship that can happen throughout your life. But anybody goes through this. It's not something you can get away from. It's not something that your relationship can get away from. It doesn't mean your relationship will die, but it will stay only if it really is genuinely true to who you are at this time. And if you think about long-term relationships, people commit sometimes in their late teens, sometimes in their 20s, and then they go, to their 40s, and like we're not the same person we were when we were 20s, right? So it's good to check with ourselves, like what kind of life is fitting now, and that's how astrology works. Oh my gosh, the barping got to me. I saw a couple of people who don't barping like in the middle of the video, and they were like, it never happens to me, and now it happened to me. So if anybody knows what's with the burping in videos, let me know. I was just drinking water, like I wasn't even drinking anything sparkly. And then, so it's funny. The barking got to me. Mm-mm. Anyway, so that's the Uranus thing. Let's see if I have more stuff that I see. Oh, this is something interesting. Um, and this is, I would consider it the important self growth and probably certain returns of certain planets, but I don't know. It's actually coming from Chris Brennan, and he was doing an episode a while ago with Lisa Scheim, his partner, and talking about relationships. And he said, in this episode, he said he before he dated Lisa, he dated someone who had a very similar natal chart, and that relationship was the type of relationship that he was afraid that this would turn out to be the same. Um, and so the growth that he's been through from the previous relationship got to the point where he dated a person with pretty much the same chart, and they're still together. So this is something that I do see it as more the exception than the normal. I don't know, like I didn't look deeper into that. It's none of my business. It's just something interesting that it is important to note that the same person at a different time, or not the same person, the same chart at a different time can yield a different relationship, which does relate to what I said about Uranus, which also relate to Saturn returns, the person we are before a Saturn return. For example, before my Saturn return, I did not know about astrology, about synastry. Okay, so my entire view on relationships was different. Okay, and after a Saturn return, then for some people, while for a lot of people it can express as literally choosing different partners with different charts, not just consciously, just by the merit of them growing. Like I said with the moon, if you do your self nourishment and you used to attract people whose moon is further away from you, and you are the person who wants to be courted, then doing the self work with the moon might attract a partner that actually is courting you, that you're happy with. And also the break up from the people that you were courting can be easier. Even you see, if you see them happy with the partner, you will not feel like, oh my gosh, like, why am I not good enough? Why did they do this? Why? It's just like, oh, okay, the moons were just operating in this way. So me and them, it was me courting them, but I'm looking to be courted, and now with someone who courts me, and they're with someone that they court. So we're all happy. Or they're with someone who courts them but is happy with it. So we're all happy. Um, and that's the kind of stuff that can happen even around Saturn returns. So we grow and we grow and we learn, and then it usually is being attracted to people that come with different charts, but sometimes it is just two people that learn how to work with their own natal charts, and now they can have a relationship. Like this can also happen, okay? And that's just something I learned from a story, like a byway story. Anything more? Another thing that is important, I don't remember, I think it was Austin who said that in the astrology podcast, and I sometimes refer to this saying that people are like permanent transits. Another person I saw on Twitter that I don't remember the name because it was just cruising through my feed. They said, "Oh, I'm so fascinated by the fact that we are walking talismans for our natal chart." This is so true. This is so true, and it's so brilliant. So being with a partner means that you have a talisman that grows with you. It's a permanent transit that is in your life, and and that's just that. So there are gonna be good stuff around it, not so good stuff around it, and and then you need to take this into account. Okay, they can be a wonderful person, but they may bring, and this is something I saw also from Lada, like the sixth house wisdom. Sixth house is also our health. So if somebody brings a planet that is not well aspected into your sixth house, they might be a brilliant person, but they're going to affect your health. And then either you learn how to mitigate that, um, or you just choose somebody else. And not because this person is not good, but because they just meet your chart in a way that they bring it to your chart. But if they meet another person, they may bring it to another house that less affects something vital to their well-being. Okay, they might bring it, I don't know, to um, well, I don't know. It depends. Okay. Of course, all houses affect our well-being, but they might meet that other person in a way that does not affect their health. So that is another thing to look at. Um, let's see if there is more coming up. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Well, of course, uh, 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 Heather Elland, which is another astrologer, and of course, I would get it from Heather Elland because she's has luminaries in Virgo, is quite a Virgo person, and Virgo is ruled by Mercury. So her wisdom of relationship from all the charts that she read, I think she spoke about it on Instagram. I don't know if she spoke about it on YouTube, but anyway, check Heather Elland. She's a great astrologer. Um, was how important Mercury is in relationships and how much if you have a good Mercury or in a relationship, it means you have good communication. And so many of the problems of relationship have to do with being able to communicate and to understand one another and to reach agreements. That is also Mercury, right? So check that Mercury, and again with no blame or shame or whatnot. It's just if that Mercury is well aspected, it's going to relieve. It can, like, a relationship has to be powerful. Alternatively, you could be a great communicator, but if you are surrounding yourself with people with whom you don't have good Mercury aspects, and because you're valuing, I don't know, sexual attraction or whatnot, then you might end up be feeling misunderstood or misunderstanding, or even have people blaming you that you don't know how to communicate, where you could be a great communicator, just not with them. And that, I think, sums up the wisdom of synastry, being more about how we meet each other rather than how um, I am this or you are that. And yeah, that's pretty much, and I'll add my own thing to that, and that is that if it's an outer planet meeting a personal planet, even in your natal chart, and if that personal planet is the ruler of the seventh, or it's Venus or Jupiter or Mars or the lumin, like everyone, it means that that relationship issue has to do with a timeline or a zeitgeist, and not just a personal thing. That you personally are downloading certain issues that your generation is dealing with from that perspective. Do you know the personal is the political? It's exactly that. It's Pluto related. I think it was the Pluto in Virgo generation. So people who had Venus opposition Pluto, when Pluto was in Virgo, definitely, let's say if they had it in the seventh house, the personal is the political. Like even for me, I have Pluto opposition Venus, and I became a Me Too veteran when a person who was of Pluto generation in my seventh house, and it was perfected for me, and there were like a stellium for me there, and so I was exposed to something that was generational. It's not me and that person. It was just a theme, an overall theme. And I did not, when I spoke about it, I did not know Me Too was coming. So it was shit fuck scared for my life. And then, boom, Me Too landed. And you saw how that was just bringing in about. And I was one of the people who personally was downloading that change. Okay. So even let's say with Uranus, okay, some maybe if you have Uranus Venus thingy, so um, where is Uranus? So what are you downloading? What concepts of liberation? It's easy for me to say liberation because my Uranus is in yeah, is in Sagittarius. So but let's say you had Uranus in Scorpio, so it can be liberation also around sexuality, maybe different types of sexuality, okay, that you bring to the table. And now even though you may experience this, oh, I have like I had, like you can say, I had an affair with someone, and I thought I'm the monogamous type, and I didn't expect this happening. But when you go deeper into the reasoning, you understand it was not you had an affair with your partner, but there's a whole lot of people that found out that they need also relationships that have a more flexible monogamous style, or flexible commitment style, or the whole type of people where they need to have more freedom around this age to do stuff that they didn't do when they were young. All kind of, so it's not the, it's the personal is the political pretty much with that. um, and even with Neptune, like you may have a certain type of addiction or certain type of symptom, but what you're repressing is something that is not you going through, it's just like an entire generation. And nearly all of us have these aspects. They may be softer or harder, but this is also how we bring about changes on a grander level. And when it does touch too much of our personal planets, yes, it can mean that what your very intimate parts of life are yours and not yours. So your very intimate stories are the stories of an era. Um, and that is something that I relate to deeply. If we're learning to accept that, there's something that can give you actually power and strength, because it's not just like it's not your personal story. There's just a whole timeline unraveling there, and also it will be like resolved in time. Some of it more, some of it less, but you're bringing about something that was perhaps repressed for a while, or people did not tend to it, and now they will begin to, but it will take certain time. Sometimes it's months, sometimes it's years. Um, so yeah, it can feel like a big burden to be alive, but there is also excitement and joy in other facets of life. And also in these facets of life, when they do come into fruition, and you're like, oh my God, like, wow. um, so that was my sharing honor to my teachers from a perspective of doing relationships and all these things that everybody wants to know now with Venus in Sagittarius and relationship teachings, right? And honoring the people that we learned from. So This is my video. This does not mean that those are the only people that I learn from. This is just a way for me to honor them with this video and this teaching. So I'm Tali Shear on Twitter, Shirley Youngblood on Instagram. I do personal readings, so you can find me. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye. Oh, do subscribe, like, share if you like this content. I'm looking for something. Yeah, where's the X? Where is the X?